So, this video is going to be a bit different, guys. It's going to be a bit of a ramble, bit of an open-ended one with no real destination, I want to call it. But that's okay. Sometimes you just gotta do a video like that every once in a while. And Delta Force, with how it's come into the FPS space at such a critical moment, has got me feeling a certain kind of way. And I feel like this may actually relate to a few of you out there. G'day there once again, viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today, let's have a chat about how it feels to be excited about first-person shooter games once again. You know, I think it's been a pretty common sentiment across the broader first-person shooter community that, well, the FPS gaming space has been hurting a little bit lately. And a lot of us are tired of it. I myself was getting just about ready to up stumps and ditch the first-person shooter market entirely as of late, to be completely honest with you all. You know, as much as I love first-person shooter games, what they represent, and the skill curve that many of them should be encouraging, I was getting sick of being let down over and over again for the last few years. Between half-baked yearly releases that are closer to storefronts than actual games, visionless trend chasers, smorgasbords of ideas with no real attention to detail, developers just straight out taking advantage of their communities with horrific monetary models, and sometimes, on the opposite side of the coin, developers just dreaming too big for their own good and seeing the success of their game get away from them. We've seen all of the horror stories over the last, I want to say, 5 years or so. Now, obviously, I've thrown a lot of shade in a lot of different directions there, and that isn't intended to yuck your yum, per se. If you are enjoying any of the games that I've just called out there, then that's perfectly fine. I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you found a game that you can enjoy after a long day at school, work, or whatever helps you to, you know, dust off after a big day. The point here is to not call you out for enjoying the games that you enjoy. The point is just to highlight that everywhere you look in the first-person shooter space, it doesn't feel like there's been a flat-out winner for a while, a home run if you will. There's always something getting in the way of that being the case. And as a comparison point, I really do catch myself thinking back to that golden era of first-person shooter gaming, which I'm gonna posit was the 2009 to 2014 era. The Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2s and 3s, the Black Ops 1s and 2s, the Battlefield Bad Company 2 and Battlefield 3 era, the Halo 3 and Halo Reach era, the original Titanfall. Hell, I'm even going to throw the launch era of PlanetSide 2 into this mix here. A lot of fucking winners of video games. The gameplay was smooth, the content was plentiful, the times were good. And I know it's going to sound like a whole lot of nostalgia coming from me here, and maybe there is an element of nostalgia influencing this conversation today, but this was an era of first-person shooter games that knew what they wanted to be, and they all knew they were competing for the same player base, but they competed not by chasing trends or trying to be a catch-all game or copy one another. They competed by doing what they were good at, by being true to their identity and innovating within the confines of their identity. There was competition simply by being different and by doing their own thing. And while, yeah, to this day they technically are still competing with each other, I feel like the standard in which that competition is taking place has dropped significantly in levels of quality over the years. You know, it kind of feels like we've gone from watching the grandmasters of chess competing in a grand final environment to watching kindergartens learning what the chess pieces actually are. It genuinely feels like the big players in this industry have gotten complacent, expecting that they'll make money off of their player base regardless of the quality of their game because, you know, what else is out there right now? The alternative is simply to not play games, so why not just take advantage of that and release a dodgy product and get away with it, you know, every year or so, you know? And that's how it's felt for a while. But then enters Delta Force, a game that posited to take on both the extraction shooter and large-scale combined arms warfare market at once, made out of China. And look, we've seen narratives like this before. Cheap Chinese knockoff tries to copy another industry participant to make a quick buck off of the Western market that's clearly struggling. Yada yada. I think that's how many of us actually expected Delta Force to go down when we started hearing about what this game was looking to accomplish. But then what happens when the quote-unquote cheap Chinese knockoff is actually better than its industry competitors? A game that just appears to have a stronger vision and grasp on both the quality and quantity of its content and a better understanding of what its consumers want. Well, Then you've got Delta Force, which brings us back to the key theme of this video here today. Delta Force has me genuinely excited about first-person shooter games again. Not just because it's a fun game to play in of itself, because it ticks that box, but simply because it's doing the one thing that many up-and-coming studios have failed to do with the big guys in the industry so far: scare them. And I'm hoping that other developers take note of what this team have done here and rise to that challenge themselves. Delta Force is the first game that has come along in a long time that has both the financial and technical backing to play with the big dogs in town. It's getting attention from a lot of content creators and the player base more broadly. It has the pillars of game design that keeps it fun for players in the long run, but most importantly, it's demonstrating what degree of quality and quantity is possible with the right development team. We've been told time and time again from other dev teams out there that more content and more quality of content is simply out of the scope of what is deliverable these days with, these expectations of gamers. But then here comes Delta Force showing us that it is possible. And it's not just telling us what's possible, it's showing us what's possible. I remember in the lead up to Battlefield 2042's launch that EA told us that Battlefield 2042, that they were way ahead of their development schedule, they were working on content well in advance, only for the game to release in, well, the state that it did. Delta Force has told us that the developers are currently working on content for Season 4 while releasing new content ahead of time for the alpha test mere weeks after its initial release. And the content that was released is polished, pretty well balanced, and unique content to the game. Actions speak louder than words here, and Delta Force is not only promising competition for the first-person shooter space, but it's delivering it. And it's also proving that healthy competition, when delivered right, will be rewarded by the gamers. You see it in the sentiment online. People are loving this game, and they are flocking to it the moment they get access to the dev test. And it goes to show that the one thing that this industry has been missing sorely for such a long time is competition. Now, to clarify a point here, I'm not going to sit here and posit that Delta Force has fixed the industry overnight and the next Call of Duty and Battlefield games are going to be these must-buys because Delta Force is, here showing them up and they're going to react immediately. It's going to take time for Delta Force's impact on the market to be felt in the end products of the competitors. But if Delta Force can hold the course and keep things moving in the right direction and be this titan of the industry that I think a lot of us are hoping it to be, it will impact the bottom lines of the developers and it will grab the attention of these companies should gamers choose to vote with their wallet in favor of playing Delta Force over these other games that are just quite simply washed up by comparison. And in response, the only way that the rest of the industry will stand a chance in keeping gamers around is by upping their game to the standard that Delta Force sets. That right there, guys, is why Delta Force has me excited about first-person shooter games again. By simply existing and being a presence like it is, and assuming it can keep this presence, it can and will put a challenge to the rest of the industry to get its act together. We as a community have been absolutely slaughtered by shitty products, games that just simply front as microtransaction storefronts, and just really, really dodgy releases that quite frankly should never have gone to sale in the first place. This kind of competition means better games for us in the future in theory, and if not, well then at least we get Delta Force for the time being and we've got a good game to play. I catch myself being not disappointed, not angry, not upset. I can't really figure out what the emotion is, but it's an emotion when I see people just completely writing Delta Force off as a Battlefield 2042 clone because, well, it shares the similarities, it does play similarly in some ways, but then people just throw it into the cheap Chinese knockoff hat because, it's the easiest thing to do. But the point being, if this game was a carbon copy of Battlefield 2042, it just would be Battlefield 2042, but it's not. It plays better, it's smoother, it ends up being a far better experience almost at all levels by comparison to Battlefield 2042. It's not a copy, it's competition. And that right there is the most important thing we need in our industry right now. And it's also why Delta Force has got me excited about first-person shooter games again. But folks, if you enjoyed today's video, well, thank you so much for getting through this little ramble with me here today. And I hope you guys enjoyed the sentiment, the conversation. If you did, be sure to like the video. It does go a long way to supporting the channel. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. Lots more first-person shooter content coming your way. And I'm also going to be taking a look at Deadlock very, very soon as well on the channel. I've been playing a couple of games of that offline, and I'm thinking about bringing it to my Twitch Twitch stream very soon too, so keen to see you guys for that experience too. And on that note of the Twitch streams, make sure you guys come stop by the Twitch channel, first link in the description down below. Once again guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video, peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care guys, have a good one.